So how do we convert the data into uppercase? We use a formula called upper. And if you have a whole row of data, a whole column of data, and you want to convert it to an uppercase data, what you will have to do is you will have to insert one more column, and you will have to use upper, and then you will have to copy and paste the values, right? So for example, let's say you have Jan. I just do the month so that it's really quick. So you say is equal to upper of the previous cell, and then you fill the data. Now you copy these values and go here and say paste values. So that's how you get the upper case of the data, right? So it is then you'll have to do multiple tasks. So instead, if you just have a formula, when you select the data and it becomes the uppercase, it looks very simple. So let's see if we can do the same. So I'm just going to stick on with the lowercase version now. I'm still not all right in the throat, so please do excuse me for that. So let's go to the Developer tab and go to Visual Studio. So in my sheet 1, I start, remember, the procedure. So I'm going to write this subroutine, which means in procedure. I'm just going to write a piece of code inside the procedure. Let's name it change case. All right. I'll paste it. It's very simple code. If you look, I'm declaring a long variable for long data type. And after that, I'm saying with the selection, with whatever data is selected. Means with selection is whatever data is selected. And inside that, I'm going to use a for loop. Hope you remember the for loop, what we did yesterday. I'm starting from 97 to 122. That means that it is the ASCII code for the character. It is the ASCII code for the character. So if the ASCII code is between 19 and 122, which means it's a lowercase character, then I'm using the replace method. See here? I'm saying replace. You remember find and replace in Excel? It's the same option. I'm saying replace. Replace what? The current character. The character value of this ASCII code. Replace the character value of this ASCII code to uppercase character value of the same ASCII code. Just calling the uppercase character value of the same ASCII code. And then I'm calling for the next character. So within the selection, how many of the characters are there? This it will go through the whole thing. But when it comes here, I'm only doing it for those characters which are having ASCII code from 97 to 122. So all these will get converted to uppercase. It's a very simple code. Now let's go back to my Excel sheet. I'm going to select this. After I select this, I come here and I say execute. Surprise! So it converts to uppercase. Okay, I'm able to read your mind. Maybe you're thinking, why do all this? I can just write a function and work with the function. Why do I have to go for so much of pain? Every time I will have to write the uppercase function, and after I write the uppercase function, I will have to select my code and go to the Developer tab, open the Visual Basic, execute my macro. There are other ways of executing the macro. Hope you remember that. I'm going to convert again to the lowercase. So here's my data. The other way of doing it is when you hit macro, you will be able to see the code that you have written. So you can hit run. All right? You can hit run. Now you say, no, okay, now I wrote the macro and this is available in this sheet. What about the other sheet? Now I open another sheet. Now what happens to that sheet? That's a good question. So maybe you want it in your system. Maybe you want to share it with your friends also. So if you want to do like that, first step is if you want it in this sheet, on this workbook, then what you do is you can associate it with in shortcut. Do you remember yesterday we recorded an action and we associated the same action with the shortcut key? Do you remember it? For unhiding a column. Okay. Now we are going to do the same here. We are going to associate this macro that we have written with the shortcut key to begin with. So how can we do it? see the macro. No, here is my macro. Go on for options. I'm going to repeat. What do? After you paste the macro, you go to the macros here in the developer tab. You will be able to see the macro here. Hit options, and here is the shortcut key option. So what shortcut can you give it? So let's shift and C for capital. So if I use Control Shift and C, it's going to convert the selected data to uppercase. Can we try it? So Control Shift and C. There you go. So it does convert my data into uppercase. So now I've associated the same with a shortcut key. But maybe you don't want a shortcut key. You want a shortcut key. Okay, now I did it. I'm going to save this file, or I will save this file. Okay, let me quickly save this file as in the desktop in the same folder. I want to save this file here as change case demo. Alright. And hope you remember we will have to save it as a macro-enabled workbook. Macro-enabled workbook. And then I'm hitting save. Now this file is saved. I will close it. I open a new workbook. Or maybe I open a new sheet. Okay. Whatever. So now let's try the shortcut. Control Shift and C for capital. Nothing happening. Let's go and look what happened in the Visual Basic. There's the code. The code is not there. So maybe you want to write a code, a piece of macro, and you want to share it with everybody in your office. You got the point? So you just write a macro and it's useful for everyone in your office. So you want to create this macro and share it across to all your colleagues in your office. So how do you do it? Let's repeat. I'm going to go to the older file where the macro is already written. Close this one and say I don't want any changes. Okay, here it is. And you remember the extension, it is XLSM because it's macro enabled workbook. Alright. Now this contains the macro. Let's have a look. Yes, it does contain the macro. Copy this macro. You remember how to add a module? So I'm going to say insert module, and in the module I'm pasting this code. And this code is right here. Now instead of saying this workbook normally, I'm going to save this workbook as an add-in. How do I do it? Go to the save as. So I'm going to repeat what I'm doing currently. You are writing a macro which you think may be useful for all your office or for many people in your office. So you want to save this macro and send it to your colleagues. You want them to have it too. So then first step is you should know how to save the file so that you can share it with everyone. Go to the Office button. Go to Save As. Instead of saving it as a macro-enabled workbook, drop down and you should see an Excel add-in. Do you see it? Do you see it? An Excel add-in. And you see the extension is differing. The extension for a macro-enabled workbook is XLSM. That is, for an add-in, it is XLSAM. AM. And what you can do is, now I'm going to save this here, right here. So it's called the change case demo. And you see the saving location is also changed. Now I have saved it as an add-in. I'm going to close this file. I'm just going to close this file. Everything is done and done here. So I've just closed this file. I'm opening a fresh file. So I just say new and then open a new workbook. Alright. In the new workbook, I want that file that I've done, or maybe in the whole of Excel I just need it. Always I need the change case macro. Then what do? So either I come here to Excel and then go to the Excel options, and do you see add-ins here? So you can go to the add-ins, and in the bottom of the add-ins, you will have manage add-ins. Hit go. You'll be able to save it, see it here. So now you want your add-in, it's right here. So once you save it in the location of add-ins where Excel saves it, you'll be able to see it here, right here. Do you see the change case demo? Ensure you're doing the check mark here. Don't just select it like this, please do the check mark and say OK. Now I have added the code that is required to change the case. Can we just have a look on the Visual Basic part? So this is my Visual Basic. If you see, it has opened the change case demo. Is it visible to all of you? It has opened the change case demo. And in the module, it has the case. It has the code. So what you can do, now I'm just saying jam, and then let's pull it across. All right. Now let me give the shortcut key here. Do you see? Becomes the uppercase. Now let me close this file. No. I'm just going to open a new file. I've closed everything. Maybe if you want, if you're doubtful, I'm just closing Excel here and then opening Excel again. It's a very new file and very new window. Go to this. Let's go into the days of the week. There it is. So now let's try the shortcut keywords. You see, it just worked. How does it work? Because it is the add-in and it remains in your system always. Always. When they say always, it's always. So when you want to send it to your friends, what you will have to do, you save the file, right? Just send it across as an Excel add-in, and they will have to save it in a particular location, and they will have to also do the add-in, and that's it. So once they have saved it as an add-in in the add-in folder and checked it, this add-in is always available in your system. It's very simple. So how you can do in file and then just do an add-in. The next thing that I thought we will discuss a few examples for the day. So to begin with, I'll just remove the add-in. How do you do it? Maybe after one time you don't want add-in, you can also do the same. Just go to add-ins and hit go. Please uncheck this and say OK. So once you do that, the add-in will not be there anymore. You can also look in the Visual Basic part. You don't have the add-in, nothing. This is clear. So once your work is over, you don't need it anymore. You can just uncheck it. All right. Okay. Let's do the chart demo. You have data for which you constantly do the chart. Now that I told you how to do the add-in, you can also do it as an add-in. But you might have your company's template and a particular type of chart which you always want. You might be doing that again and again. Or maybe the data would change. You just want it on a button click. You want to create different charts whatsoever. So if you want to do such things, then you can go in for this kind of macros. So how do you do it? Generally, we go to insert and we select the type of chart and we do the modifications that we require. Instead, you can just do it once and keep it. And whenever you want, we just have to run the macro. I've done this code already, so I'm going to go to the Visual Basic. And here's my code. I'm saying I'm doing a chart, record chart object. So what am I doing? First, I'm saying charts.add. If you remember, yesterday we were talking about objects. Do you remember that? Yesterday we were talking about objects. Now I'm using the chart object. How? I'm just saying chart.add. What will happen? It will just add a blank chart. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Just an empty chart object. And after that, I'm setting the chart type. Now, if you don't want this, you can choose your own chart type. So it just says equal to. It drops in all the chart type. So if your chart type is already there, you can just select it. I've just used the 3D column chart. And if you see, I'm setting the data source. I'm saying the data is in sheet 1. You remember the range, of course. So I'm saying the range is from A1 till F5. From A1 till F5. Okay. And I'm making the chart's location. I'm changing the chart's location to be sheet 2. Maybe if you want in the same sheet, you can say it in the same sheet. I'm saying it, I want it in the sheet 2. I'm wanting it in the sheet 2. Go back to my Excel. Look, in the sheet 2, it has done a 3D column chart. Okay. The next thing is, maybe you don't want just the chart. Maybe you want on a button's click. You don't feel like doing it with a shortcut key or, going to the VBA and executing it. You want the button, and you click the button, the chart has to appear there. So how do you do it? Now, in the developer, you see insert. Now, drop down this insert. You will have the first part, which is the form control. You can use them. Okay. So I'm going to use a button here. Now it's asking me, what do you want it to do? If you do not have anything earlier, you just want to do the new things, you can start writing your code by clicking new. Or you want to record a macro currently, then you can hit record. But if you do not want all that, now I'm going to use the macro that I've already written. So I'm selecting that. I'm selecting that, and I'm saying OK. Now, if you don't like this, you can also change it to, chart. I'm just saying chart. After that, when you click anywhere else, it will study. Now, what do you have to do? When you hover on the button, you see the pointer does change, right? So you just have to click the button. Now, there you go. The chart is study. The macro is executed. Isn't that very simple? So maybe if you want to analyze it with different charts, you can write different macros, and you can associate them with column chart. Let's do a pie chart also for a different series. I'll show you. Instead of this, I'm going to say it is a pie chart. Like this. And then let me make it to the B. So that only one data. And where do I want the chart? Let me make it sheet 3. Pie chart 2. So it's going to come in sheet 3. So I go with the developer tab. Go insert, select the button here. So it's going to be the pie chart. I hit OK. Let's name it. So here it is. Let's check it out. There it is. So when you want the chart on the sheet 1, you can, I've deleted both, so when I click the chart, it does it in sheet 2. So when I click the pie chart, it appears in sheet 3. Simple. So maybe if you want to send it to someone, your customers or your clients, or you want to do a presentation, that time you just don't want to do the chart before, the data is going to be dynamic, you can just use the button. So you just have to change the data and hit the button, and the chart gets generated dynamically. It will give a very good look when you're doing it on a presentation. It's more easier that way. So if you want different types of analysis based on the data, it will be available on a button's click. The next thing that we are going to discuss for the day is going to be, let's see a function. So how do you, this is a small data which calculates salary of different employees. Now I have my basic HRA, DA, PF and deductions. So I want to calculate the net salary here. Generally, what we do is we come here and we say is equal to this cell plus, and then this cell, and then plus, and then this cell, and then minus this, minus this, right? So we write a formula. Maybe your salary calculation is even more complicated, and you want, maybe you're writing a function of your own. So I've written a function here, my own, which does the same thing and will return the value. How can I write the function? So now we have been seeing procedures, and now we are going to see the function. Visual Studio, here is my function. Remember, you will have to write the function in the module. I have written the function in the module. So I am calling this function of cal_sal, which is calculate salary. And I am taking parameters. What are the parameters? I am taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters as range. 5 parameters as range. And it's going to return a double data type. Okay? So I'm taking the parameters and declaring variables to get the values from the range. So it's going to be a range, and from the range I'm getting the value. And I'm storing it in these variables, which means the basic, I'm having it here. The basic will be a cell. So from the cell, I'm getting the value and I'm storing it in basic as a variable. The same way I'm going for HR, A and TA, PF and deduction. I'm calculating the gross and I'm calculating the net salary. I'm saying this function's name. If you have a close look, this function's name is equal to the net salary. As you have seen already, I said the function is going to return a double. The function is going to return a double. So how do I return the value? Unlike other languages where we write the return statement, if you know C or C++, we used to use the return statement. But in VBA, we do not use the return statement. Instead, what do? We say that the function's name is equal to the value that has to be returned. Now, this is my function. So how can I use it in my Excel? I'm going to say it's equal to, what is the function's name? The function's name is cal_sal. Do you see it appearing here? So I selected the cal_sal and it will take parameters, right? So I'm giving the cells. So it will take 5 parameters and I've given all the 5. Let's see. Now it also does the same. What's the benefit of writing function? You may even, just take the basic and calculate the DRA and DA and HRA from that. I thought of writing a small function. I'm putting it right here, but maybe if you want to do the calculations all by yourself, it's most useful for people who are doing incentive calculation, average call time, and your score based on calling or whatsoever. So once you write the function, like any other Excel function, you can also do the autofill, which will help you to do the calculation for all the sheets. And remember, if you want this function in all your workbooks, then what should you do? You should save this as an add-in, and then your function will be available in all the workbooks. Alright, simple. So I have written n function and I've used the function in my Excel. I'm moving to the next example. Okay. The next example I thought we will share for the day would be a pivot table. So let's see, I have a little data here, around 1080 records, and I want to generate the pivot table. When you have to generate the pivot table, you will have to give the row field, column field. Even if it's a desired, you will have to do it all the time. Maybe if you're not knowing what a pivot table, how to generate a pivot table, then it will be more useful for you also. Because once you ask someone to tell you which one should come in the row and which one should come in the column, all you will have to do is just use the use the code that we are writing now. So I have written the code and I also used the the comments, and I'm going to share this file with you so you can use it for your future use also. Just look, I'm declaring the table as a pivot table, and I'm also declaring another as the pivot field, OBJ field as the pivot field. Now in the active workbook, I'm getting the active workbook. In that, I'm calling for the sheet called sales. I'm going to select the whole data. It will select the whole data. Next step, generally what you would do when you are generating the pivot table is go to the Insert tab and say Pivot Table. So that's the same thing I'm doing here. So I'm saying OBJ table, if you remember it's the pivot table, is equal to sheet 2. What is the sheet 2? Sheet 2 is the sales sheet. Please have a look here. I'm using the object name directly. Please have a look. It's sheet 2. So I'm saying sheet 2 dot pivot table wizard. I'm invoking the wizard, the pivot table wizard. And for that pivot table, I am saying that the pivot field name is salesman. The field name is salesman. And what type of field is it going to be? It is going to be the row field. It's going to be the row field. And region is going to be the column field. Let's have a look on the data. So I have the salesman and I have the region. So what am I going to do now? Salesman 1, region 1, I'm going to fetch the data. I'm going to fetch what data? Net sales. I'm going to fetch the net sale done by every single salesman for every single region. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm saying salesman and I'm saying net, the region. And what do I want for every salesman for every region? I want the net sales. I want the net sales. And I'm saying it is the data field. And if you see, I've added a couple of more things here. I say that I want to use the sum function for the field. I want to use the sum function. If you want the average, you can use the average. You remember the value field setting. It is the value field setting. You have all the aggregation function. So I'm using the default one, which is the sum. Okay. I'm using the default sum. And I'm also making the format. What format am I making? I'm saying it is currency format, the default currency format. And I'm saying this is how the format should be. I want a comma separated format. Alright. And finally, if at all there is an page field. And after I do the table, after I do print preview, you see here, once it goes to the print preview, when you try to close it, what happens is it will ask you whether you want to save the table. If you want to save the pivot table, if you say no, if you say, I mean, it will ask you whether you want to delete the pivot table. If you say no, then it will leave the pivot table intact. If you say yes, then it will delete the table. Before that, you would have seen that the other application alert I am disabling. After I do my alert, I am enabling the application alert. I am putting the message box into use. You can have a look on this code. I am putting the message box into use. I am saying delete the pivot table. If you say I am asking for a VB yes or no message box. So it will have two buttons which will say yes and another will say no. If you hit yes, then it will delete it. If you hit no, then it will retain the table. Let's have a look on how this works. So as you see, it has done the pivot table and it has gone to the print preview. Do you see that? It's gone to the print preview. Now when I close, you see in the message box with yes and no dialogues. So yes and no button. Now when I say yes, it will delete the sheet first. And as I already said, you want to associate with the button, you can. If you want to get the input field name from the user, very well, you can. I'm going to modify this. Instead of saying it to the salesman, maybe you want to ask the user, you can. Remember? Input name is equal to, I hope you remember the input box. So I'm using the input input box, I'm asking the user to enter the row fields. And instead of saying the salesman directly here, saying it is str input field name. So maybe you can use the R here, and if you want the user to be asked for the column also, you can. So now let's execute it. It's going to ask there it is. So maybe if you want Excel to ask you, you can. Now the other way of generating the same would be you can also put a button here. One button for this, the other button for the other one. So you can also do the buttons here. So let us see. I'm going to insert a button here. By now you should know how to change the name. So then just click. So it's going to ask me the field. Let me say it is region. Say OK. Now you see it got me for the region. So you can pick a dynamic or however you want. So if you want, you can skip the the region. Oh, I've already done the region. So maybe if you want the product, maybe if you want just comment it, just the page field. So you just comment it, and now you do the same thing for the pivot and the product. So you do it for the product. So doing salesman wise, I'm saying no. Now here's the table. You see it's also formatted. So product wise, I asked it to enter the row field, right? So for the row field, I said product. So it's taking for product for every single region. That's it, and your table is ready. And you look, it's also formatted in currency type. Okay, my next example is going to be a mail. So you want to send a mail. Now this is my Excel worksheet. Now this has to be a mail to someone. So every time what do? You have to either make it as attachment and send it, or you might want to copy and paste it into your Outlook and then send it. So if you do not want any of these, let's say again you want to associate it with the buttons click, that is also possible. So now if you see the code here, I'm going to just copy this part and send it to the mail to whomever it is written here. I'm going to mail it to myself. For that you will have to have your Outlook open. Now I've kept my Outlook open. Let's go to the code and see what is the code. It's a very, very simple code. It is only this much. So the first thing that we will have to do is I will have to say that I want an object for the Excel application. So it's going to be named My Excel. So I've created an object for the Excel application. And I've also done one for the workbook. So WB for the workbook. And My Excel is going to be my Excel application. All right. And then I'm using one for the mail item. My mail. So it's going to be my mail. It's going to be for the mail item. And then my Excel application. In that, I'm saying open get object Excel application. Now, what does this line do? It will get the running instance of Excel. It will get the running instance of Excel. Excel is already running, so it will take and get fetch the running instance of Excel. All right. It will fetch the running instance of Excel, and then what am I doing? I'm saying that in that the workbook, which workbook? maildemo.xlsm. This is my file name. If you remember, you can see it also here, and you can also see it here. It's mail demo. So I'm getting the file. So I'm getting the workbook. I'm getting the current running instance of Excel. From that, I'm getting the workbook. Okay, I'm getting the running instance of Excel, and then I'm getting the workbook. After I get the workbook, what am I doing? I'm just refreshing the workbook. I'm going to the first sheet. I'm saying in that it might be having more than one sheet, but I want to go to the first sheet. In that first sheet, what is the range I want to go? I want to go from A1 till F5. From A1 till F5, and I'm copying it. All right, I'm copying it. Then I'm saying my mail. If you can see, it's an Outlook item. So I'm saying my mail equal to outlook.create item. So already Outlook is running. In that I'm calling create item. I'm saying that item is a new mail item. So OL mail item. So it's going to be Outlook mail item. It's going to be an Outlook mail item. All right. So with the mail item, I'm first asking the mail item to be displayed. I'm asking the mail item to be displayed. In that, I want in the word editor part, that is in the body part, I want the range to be pasted. What range? This range that I have copied from the workbook called maildemo.xlsm. Copy the first sheets A1 from A1 to F5 range and paste it in the body part of the mail. And in the two, if you look, instead of giving a mail, you can also give a mail address directly here. Or if you want that also to be dynamic, you can also use the cell here. So I'm saying in the range, copy the text. So where is the to range? So it is here. It is B7. It is B7. Correct? So I'm saying copy the text. I'll get the text and send it to that particular mail. Okay. So let's see how this works. So I'm going to hit, before that I have to tell you something. Please go to tools. Before you do the mailing, go to the reference and ensure you've added Outlook in your reference list. You've added Outlook into your reference list. You see I've added Outlook. It might not be here. I'm unreferencing it. So you go to tools, you go to reference. It may not be on the top, so you may have to scroll down. You might have to scroll down until you reach Microsoft Outlook. So here it is. Do you see it? So select it and hit OK. When you do that, it will add your reference list. So after you do that, I'm going to hit execute. Do you see it's attempting to send it to my mail ID. So I should get the mail by now. You saw it's so easy. All you will have to do is, just open the mail and it gets copied and pasted it into the body of the mail. And if you want, you can do a paste special and paste it as a picture rather than, so that it maintains the formatting. Usually we face this problem, right? You do the mailing, but it somehow does not look the same in the HTML view. The formatting keeps changing, so you might want to paste it as picture. So very well, you can copy and paste it as picture. So maybe if this is not your option, you wanting to tell me that no, actually I might want to not send the mail as the in the body of the Excel. Maybe I want to send it as the attachment, as an attachment. Then also it's possible. Let's see, I have it here. So you want to send the mail as attachment. So this sheet will be saved as a different file and it will be attached to Excel. I've also included a couple of other things in this example, like how you want to save this file. Maybe on a click of a button, you want to save it at a different, in a different location with a different file name. It is your need. Every day you are saving the file recursively with the date and time of the file. Maybe only the date. In those cases, how do you do the code? So that's where I thought we will do both together. So if you look, quite a long code, but the mailing part is very small one. But the saving part, I have done a little working here, meaning I'm going to use a path. I'm going to use a file name, and I'm going to check for the extension and the format, and then we're going to, make this attachment with the file. The Outlook mail item, and then go ahead and send the mail. Okay. So if you see, I've declared quite a few variables here, different string and long. And after that, first thing is I'm setting the source variable to nothing. I'm setting the source to nothing. So if you see, I've also handled the errors here. That was another thing maybe you'll have to focus. I'm saying if there is any error, please go to, I'm saying just go to the next line. And always on the error, I'm saying go to 0. 0 is nowhere. 0 is nowhere, nothing. So I'm just saying, if there is any error, just go to 0. Okay, just end it, that's it. Okay. And then I'm saying if source is nothing, that means for the first time, if the source is nothing, then I'm going to say the source is not a range. The source cannot be worked out. So when will the source be nothing? When this line generates an error, right? When this line generates an error, the source will still be nothing. Why? Because first I'm setting the source to nothing. Then I'm setting the source here. What is the source? A1 to F5 of the current sheet. A1 to F5 of the current sheet. Okay. And then I'm not able to copy the range. Alright. If we skip this, it means that my source is set. If this error does not occur, it means that my source is set. Okay. So I'm saying with the application, I'm stopping all the screen updating in the events. In the application, I'm stopping all the other updations and any other event except my current event, because it's going to just take a second or so. That a few seconds of that. Till that time, I'm going to stop all the updates. And then I'm setting the workbook to be the current active workbook, and the destination to be, I'm going to add a new destination workbook. We've already set the source, so I'm copying the source. We've already set the source, so I'm copying the source, and in the destination, I'm pasting it. If you see the destination, I've added a new workbook right here, and I'm pasting it. And I'm using paste special. So I'm pasting the values, I'm pasting the formats. After that, I'm selecting it. So what have I done? I've selected the range A1 to F5. I'm setting it as a source. I'm selecting the source. With the selection, what I'm doing is first I'm copying the selection, and I'm adding a new workbook, which is called the destination, and in the destination, I'm pasting it. Now, I have to give a file name for saving the file. For this, I've done a working. I'm getting the temporary path from the environment variable. You can see it here. I'm getting the temporary path from the environment variable, and inside that, from with the path, I'm concatenating a slash. Just how the file names, the path gets. It's just a path, right? So I'm including a slash. I'm giving it a name, range of, and then I'm giving the name, the workbook name, and then I'm getting the date, the time, and in this format, I'm adding it to it. So what will be the file name? The file name will be range of the current workbook's name, with the date, month, and year. Month in short form like Jan, Feb. Now it should be Feb. Today it should be Feb. And then the hour, the minute, and the second. So if the version is less than 12, which means it's 2003 version, I am giving it an extension of .xls. If not, then I am adding XLSX, which means it's a greater version of 2003. Either it's 2007 or 2010, 13. Then I am adding the extension of XLSX. So I am saving the destination using save as, the file path, the file name, and the file extension. So this is going to be the path. We have already seen it. So I'm getting the temporary path and concatenating a slash. For the file name, I'm giving a new name starting with range, and then the current file's name, and then the date, month, year, hour, minute, and second. Excuse me. And then the extension based on the format. So I'm concatenating all the three, and I'm using save as. If there is any error here, I'm saying go to the next statement. And I'm trying to mail. I'm sending it as mail. So I'm saying send mail. I'm using my own ID. So you can use whatever ID you want. And then I'm just saying this is the subject line. You can add your subject line. So why I've given for 1 to 3? It will try to send the mail 3 times. In all the 3 times it fails. If in all the 3 times it fails, the mail will not be sent. So we'll try to send the mail maximum of 3 times. If the first attempt itself the mail goes, that means error will be 0. So I'm checking it. So if error number is 0, then exit. So for the first attempt, when the mail goes, the error number will be 0, so it will exit. So what happens? I'm trying to send mail. It will try to do 3 attempts. In the first, any attempt the mail goes, within the 3 attempts, it will exit the for. And then I'm closing. That's it. I'm killing all the variables, and I'm enabling the updating and the events of the application. Now let's see how it works. I'm going to hit execute. You see, it's saying my program is trying to send an email. I'm going to hit allow. My Outlook is already open. So easy that you can send and receive mails from your Excel. Either you want to make it as an attachment. See, if you do not want to do all this, it's okay. You just have to give the file name. So what you will have to do is, you will have to just do this code. That's it. I have bothered with the rest of the things so that you will also understand how to get the file and save it with a different name automatically. There is an inbuilt Excel option to remove the duplicates in a given list. You may know that you may have used it. So it is in the data tab. But it only deletes the duplicates that are repeating in the same list, right? So here it is, remove duplicates. So let's have a look at this. So I'm just hitting remove duplicates. So if you remember 1 and 2, I duplicated. So it will remove duplicates. So it's very simple. But maybe everybody's need for duplicates is not the same. You might have one workbook where you have the values, and you might have another workbook where you are checking for these values as duplicate values. Have you encountered situations like this? So maybe if you want to do such thing, here you can use a VBA code, which comes in very handy. Now if you look, I've just used simple numbers. So this sheet contains number from 1 to 100. And in this sheet, I have values from 11 to 20. So in this sheet also is there, in this sheet also is there. So I just don't want these values to be here. Okay. So then how do I remove the duplicates? Here in the Excel option, so not what I'm doing is, I'm declaring 2 integers for the counting. As usual, I'm stopping all the screen updating. And I also wish to say something.